Container terminal is Adani port. Just about 5-6 minutes.
Yeah.
May I request to just maintain time?
Yeah, sure.
Because we are really running against time.
Thank you. Thank you, Honorable Ambassador. I think we have few slides, but that's primarily of as Adani company what we have been. I think we have been very early in our stage of the company to catch hold of the marine part and develop a port like Mundra, which is India's biggest port in terms of not only bulk cargo but container terminal. I just want to put across a summary of a recent report published by a company called Consultancy in Europe, which is headed by Marsh. So this report actually deals with what are the top agendas for the companies globally, and I think climate sustainability is the top, and geopolitical risk is these two are the top. But there are two things which are major challenging, which defines what we are talking today. Is as the human elements remains vital in our business. I think that the talent part of especially from the marine side remains a big challenge, not only in India but globally. As you rightly said, I think Mr. Larry also had pointed out, I am part of the Adani team which goes into IIM for campus placements and everything. We really do not see how we can get our young kids to know what is a port. I have seen people, knowing airports so quickly because it's a B2C business, but understanding port has still become a challenge, and that's why we as a large group today, and being a biggest port operator, the single foremost challenge for us for the next 5 years is talent. That's it. I don't think we have anything. Looking, the second risk which this report comes up is the ability for companies to collaborate digitalized. So this is the second biggest risk which comes up. But the most interesting part is the least risk in this report is the ability for any company in the world, top 500 blue chip companies, ability to get finance to build infrastructure. This is the least worry in in this report. So that gives a lot of headrooms for marine industries to actually build, because this is a highly capital intensive portfolio, and so that gives a huge headrooms. As a port led community development, so we have been doing our part in terms of ensuring India becomes capable in terms of the marine infrastructure. Just to give you some figures, 2 decades before, the average draft of India for taking, I'm talking from a container perspective, a draft for a container vessel was not more than 8 meters. Today we are between the top 3 container ports in India, we can safely say we can give 16-meter draft. So it's almost double. So that brings in huge ability for shipping lines and vessel owners to actually upgrade the vessels, and that has got cascading impact to bring economy of scale to the cost of the product which we buy in India. So that is one infrastructure build-in which we have done. Yeah, we are close to around 16 to 20,000 TU staff company today, which works for making India better in terms of infrastructure. Next slide. There are 4 pillars in terms of the on the port perspective, and how we develop a port. The port, out of this 4 pillar, I think we are currently today from a challenge perspective is building the port community systems, because that is where because most of the ports, in fact it is applicable to major ports also, most of the ports, the area which they are getting community built up into that areas. For example, Mundra took us almost more than 2 decades to build up the community for us, So similarly, I think a major port in Odisha, in Dhamra, Paradeep, I think Paradeep took almost like 20-25 years to build up that community. So community build up is one. I think that has to be the primary focus of anybody coming in into the marine, because draft building infrastructure, as I said, I think from the finance perspective, there is nothing to stop any company to build that. But building up a community, you don't really, money cannot do that for you. So this is by far the challenge. Next slide. Mundra short, we are it's a flagship port for us, a very strategic port for India in terms of the geopolitical also. It's a largest special economic zone. We have various textiles parks, electronic parks, port CFSs, collaborations in ancillary units. What we also did in India was the first free trade warehousing zone which came up in Mundra. Free trade warehousing zone is something which builds in not only the capability of a country's ability to manufacture, but also to do a lot of ancillary, because a foreign product can come in, do ancillary and go out. So you create a lot of hub. I think Sri Lanka and many other ports like Singapore, who's primarily does not have a local cargo, depends upon FTWZ. We want to develop it here. Next slide. Port-led development. So basically 2-3 parts: infrastructure, road connectivity. What we did in Mundra was not only concentrate on the road but on the rail. This is the first port in India to have a double stack rail. Just to let you know, even China today does not have a double stack rail. You know, with the width which they have for the country, they still run a single stack rail. So the National Rail Logistics Plan also is a direct connectivity to the marine. I think the DFC is finally taking shape, and I think DFC is going to be a single biggest industry changeover which people will experience. Port-based manufacturing hub. One of the biggest company in Mundra is the Wilmar. When we did a JV with Wilmar Oil, fortune comes out from this plant. Next slide, please. Power and gas. Mundra today typically hosts 2 of the power segment. One is the thermal coal power. And just to let you know, in Mundra, we now have the biggest solar panel manufacturing units, 1.2 gigawatt. Our ambition is to take it to 4 gigawatt manufacturing in Mundra itself. But the industry has been playing a very big role. I think guys like Vikram Solars and the others are minimum, they have moved up to 1 gigawatt. So the manufacturing base of solar panel is kicking up. This is again a direct benefits of what the government actually has been pushing. Next slide, please. Last but not the least, port-based social infrastructure. We have been, when we now design a port infrastructure, I think the first priority for us is the social infrastructure. We've been collaborating with the schools. Adani Institute of Management has been doing their bit in terms of building up the schools, recreation facilities, hospitals. The games JV with us in Kutch has also helped. In fact, during the COVID, this was primarily one of the biggest success because we could build up this. Support in social infrastructure remains a key. And I think talent-wise, it will remain very challenging for us to. In fact, we suggested IIM to collaborate with Adani Institute because Adani Institute took up the engineering part of the port certification. There's no institute in India to actually certify a person who can build a port today. So we did that certification. We wanted IIM also to build it up this, because that is how a young guy coming out of the college would actually know that this is also a field which they can come into it. That's it. I think that was my last slide. Thank you very much. Thank you, Vicky, to organize this. Thank you.
A very interesting presentation. In fact, Athar, I was in one of the conferences on green ports, where Adani ports participated extensively. And what is this?
Online participation is there. Somebody has unmuted themselves. So we have to.
We start with that? Or?
No.
All right.
Muted them.
So, in fact, the emphasis in that conversation as I could see, was multimodality part, that digital integration, and the what is called land-based power connectivity to in-harbor ships for improving the turnaround time. Improving the turnaround time both for the vessels and for the land transportation. So I think a lot of work needs to be done, because in fact I have had the opportunity of seeing how say the European ports work, some of the best, and how our ports work. A lot needs to be done. In fact, I was part of the working group with EU on ports. Yes, exactly. And that was when we were kind of working on JNPT. So a lot of opportunity in the port sector. Again, I was our partners in the Indian Ocean region, they used to approach us. How can India help them in modernization of their own ports?
I think so. The first thing which government realized very early was to actually bring in private players in the ports. So Nhava Sheva is one of the example when DPW came in as the P&O Ports came in as a private player, and now I think the emphasis is to move away from operating a port to actually managing a land. So that's a more ideal way to look at it, to make it more efficient.
All right. So thank you so much. And now we have the